I know. It's time for the No Half Step in Hockey coverage, so let me deliver the goods. It's time for operation number 724. That's right. It's up there. Operation number 724. Show 724 for the Renegades of Puck. And at this moment in hockey history, the Nashville Predators currently find themselves in 5th place in the Central Division. They have now skated in 60 games this season. They have a record of 31-23-6, 68 points on the road, which is where their next game will take place. They have a record of 15-12-3. That's actually quite a respectable road record. 175 goals scored, 176 goals given up. That's a goal differential of -1. Now, standings become critically important at this time of year. So before we get into the matchup between the Nashville Predators and the Vancouver Canucks, which is the Preds' next stop on this lengthy road trip, let's talk about not only the Central Division, but now let's start talking about the wild card race as well, because well, the Nashville Predators may have dismantled largely the core of their team and replaced their general manager in the last week, but they are trending in a positive direction as far as points gained in the standings and as far as where they sit in the race. So at this moment in time, let's talk about the Central Division first. The Dallas Stars continue sitting in first place with 81 points. Minnesota is at 76. Winnipeg is at 74. Now that is the automatic playoff qualified teams at this moment in the Central Division. The Colorado Avalanche still very much in the race with 73 points. The Nashville Predators with 68 points. So the Preds sit 5 points behind Colorado and 6 points behind Winnipeg for an automatic qualifying spot from the Central Division. St. Louis, Arizona, Chicago wrap up the rest of the division. Now, the wild card race is the Edmonton Oilers in the wild card 1 spot out of the Pacific Division, the Colorado Avalanche out of the Central Division in the wild card 2 spot with 73 points. The Nashville Predators are currently sitting 5 points behind the Colorado Avalanche for that second wild card spot with 22 games to go in the season. We are going to continue tracking it and updating it. Is it unlikely that the Nashville Predators end up making the playoffs this season? Yes, it is. But now that they have decided to go in a new direction, getting the youth and getting these players the experience, well, maybe making a run into the playoffs wouldn't be such a bad thing. How things have changed in just a week's time. So the wild card race, the Predators are currently the first team below the cutoff line and 5 points below that cutoff line. In the automatic spot in the Central Division, they are 6 points behind. Now, let's talk about where the Preds go on this road trip after this. It is Thursday night in Arizona to wrap up the regular season series against the Coyotes. It seems like they played that entire regular season series all in the last couple of weeks. So the Preds, their second visit in a very short amount of time out to Arizona. Saturday in L.A. and then Sunday in Anaheim, and that will finally wrap up this road trip. They'll also wrap up the SEC men's basketball tournament at Bridgestone Arena, which will allow the Preds to get back home on the 14th of March to face off against the Detroit Red Wings, and on the 16th also at home against the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, this will be the final game between the Nashville Predators and the Vancouver Canucks coming up. Third of 3 meetings. Let's go back and talk about the previous 2. It was the 5th of November when the Nashville Predators scored a 4-3 victory in the shootout in Vancouver. UC Stars, heavy workload in that game, 42 out of 45. It was Gross getting the call-up and also scoring 2 goals. Nino Niederreiter, a goal and assist for 2 points, but he will not be able to repeat that performance in this particular game. On the 21st of February, the Nashville Predators, another shootout victory, this time 5-4, this time at Bridgestone Arena. UC Stars, another heavy workload day, 35 out of 39. Goals scored by Smith, Tomasino, Granlund, and Niederreiter. That's going to cause some complications because 2 of those players are no longer a part of the team. So the Nashville Predators in 2 games against the Vancouver Canucks have secured 2 victories, both in the shootout, and they have secured 4 out of 4 points, outscoring the Vancouver Canucks 9-7. For the Nashville Predators, they do have a significant amount of names on the injured list at this time. Philip Forsberg is still listed as day-to-day. Parsonen is still listed as day-to-day. We do not know about Philip Tomasino, left tonight's game early due to injury. We do know that Alex Carrier is now officially out 4 to 6 weeks, which is effectively the remainder of the season, and Ryan Johansson is on injured reserve, as well as Mark Borowiecki. Now, the Vancouver Canucks are the Nashville Predators' next opponent, and they've been playing better hockey as of late. Overall, 25, 32, and 5, 55 points, has them 6th overall in the Pacific Division. A home record of 12, 17, and 1, a minus 34 on the goal differential. Let's take a look at their most recent stretch of hockey. Let's take a look back at 5 games. On the 23rd of February is a 3-2 overtime win at St. Louis. Follow that up on the 25th with a 3-1 loss at the Boston Bruins. On the 27th of February, 5-4 overtime win at Dallas. On March the 2nd, a 2-1 loss versus Minnesota, and most recently, a 4-1 win versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Demko gets the victory in net, 36 out of 37. Now, how do these two teams stack up? Well, for the Vancouver Canucks, they have maybe some better statistical metrics and categories than you might expect. That's why we review, recap, and discuss all of these different numbers. In the goals for category, Vancouver, impressive number, 3.32 per game, is 10th best in the NHL, while the Preds sit at 2.87 per game. That is 25th overall in the NHL. In the goals against category now, Vancouver might score a lot, 3.32, but they also give up a lot, 3.89. That is 31st overall in the NHL, while the Preds are giving up 2.92, 12th overall in the NHL. So look at that. The Preds' goals for and goals against is such a narrow margin, 2.87, 2.92, 0.05 goals is the differential for the Preds on the season. They've only given up one more goal than they've scored on the season, so that makes perfect sense. Now, when it comes to shots, for 20th in the NHL is where Vancouver sits in the NHL rankings, 30.4 per game on net. The Preds also generating 30.4 per game on net, so the two teams statistically tied in that metric. Shots against, now this is a very different category. The Vancouver Canucks are 17th in the NHL, giving up 31.4 per game, while the Preds are giving up 33.5 per game. That's 26th in the NHL, and they have just given up so many shots against UC Saros when he's been in net this season. That's what's allowed him to break multiple franchise records this season for saves and facing shots. A power play, the Nashville Predators are 24th in the NHL. 19.2% is their power play rate. The Vancouver Canucks are 23.1%. They have a top 10 power play, rated 9th overall, 48 out of 208 opportunities on the season. When it comes to the penalty kill, though, the Vancouver Canucks are dead last in the NHL, 32nd overall, 67.7% kill rate. They've given up 60 power play goals against on the season. The Nashville Predators are 13th best penalty kill in the league, 81.2% kill rate, 38 power play goals against on the season. Now, I did something different with the top 5 scorers on these teams going into this particular preview, because now that we are free and clear of the NHL trade deadline, it's time to start focusing on the players that are on the roster. So I have gone ahead and taken the players out that have been removed. So for the Nashville Predators, I will no longer report Nino Niederreiter in the stats. I will no longer report Mikael Granlund. I am just going to move on and start talking about the players that now are currently on the roster and in the top 5. So I wanted to go ahead and clarify that, because that's a little bit different than what we normally do. So many players are no longer a part of this Nashville Predators roster that it's almost nonsensical to go ahead and continue telling you that Nino Niederreiter or Mikael Granlund are in the top such and such in whatever. So I've also taken Ryan Johansson out of the statistical categories for now, just because he is out for sure for the remainder of the season. So just so you understand where we're going forward with the stats. Now, for the Nashville Predators, let's get to those individual statistic leaders. The captain, Roman Josi, has 17 goals and 39 assists for 56 points on the season. Matt Duchene has 19 goals and 31 assists for 50 points. Philip Forsberg's at 19 goals and 23 assists for 42 points. Philip Forsberg, of course, still out injured day-to-day. Glass is 8 and 16 for 24. Colton Sissons, 10 goals and 13 assists for 23 points. Tommy Novak, 9 goals and 14 assists for 23 points. UC Saros in net now, 24, 17, and 5. 917 save percentage, a 2.75 goals against average. And again, after the cold start that he had to begin the season, these numbers are just simply incredible. Over on the Vancouver Canucks, the home team stat ledger, Pettersson leads the team, 29 goals, 49 assists, 78 points. He is one of the more dynamic young players around the NHL that I wish the NHL put some more time and money into promoting. Hughes is very much in that same category. 5 goals, 54 assists on the season from the blue line, 59 points. Miller, 21 and 35 for 56. Kuzmenko, 29 and 26 for 55. And Bosser, 12 and 29 for 41. In net, Thatcher Demko, a record of 5, 11, and 2 after his most recent game, and 8.93 save percentage, 3.66 goals against average. The Nashville Predators looking to go in Vancouver for the regular season series sweep against the Canucks. 5th place in the Central versus 6th place in the Pacific. Nashville Predators have been hot as of late, but the Canucks also putting up some good victories against Toronto and against Dallas. Those are 2 big-time opponents that are definitely going to be going to the playoffs. So this game cannot be taken lightly, but I do expect it to be a very competitive game. The Nashville Predators may find themselves in a shootout for the 3rd time against the Vancouver Canucks this season. It would be interesting to see who they would choose to go in the shootout with so many new faces in the lineup. We've got so much more more coming up. We got the Rebirth Sports full game recap. We've got the Renegades of Puck. We've got analysis. We've got box score. We've got stats. We got all that good stuff coming up. So stay tuned. Renegades of Puck podcast back after this.